Hello, and welcome to the deep dive from Westferry Times. Thanks for tuning in today.
Good to be here.
We're joined today by Tom Ridley, political correspondent for The Sentinel.
Hello.
And we're going to be taking a really close look at something that might seem a bit niche, but could actually have quite big ripples for UK politics. That's the UK Green Party leadership election.
Absolutely. It's definitely one to watch, even if it's not grabbing all the headlines just yet.
Exactly. I mean, the Greens have been, quietly building up strength locally, haven't they? And their national poll numbers, well, they're not insignificant anymore.
They certainly aren't. They seem to have found a consistent level of support.
So if you really want to understand where progressive politics might be heading in the UK, you kind of need to know what's going on inside the Green Party.
That's right.
So our mission today, pretty straightforward. Unpack why this election's happening, who's in the running, what are the sort of internal debates, the different viewpoints.
Yeah, the dynamics.
The dynamics, exactly. And what it all might mean, down the road.
It feels like a really pivotal moment for them. A lot hinges on this.
Okay, so let's get right into it then. Why now? Why are the Greens having a leadership election at this particular point?
Well, the immediate trigger is that one of the current co-leaders, Carla Denyer, has said she's stepping down. She won't seek re-election.
Yeah.
And alongside that, there's quite a bit of chatter, speculation, about the other co-leader, Adrian Ramsey. Will he run again? Maybe try for it solo this time.
Ah, right. So that changes the setup.
It does. Now, technically, their rules say they have to have a leadership contest every 2 years anyway.
Right.
But this one, given their recent sort of upward trend, more counselors, higher profile, it just feels, well, more significant. It could really set the direction.
No, I can imagine someone listening, maybe you, thinking, okay, the Green Party, they've got one MP currently. Why should I, someone interested in the big picture of UK politics, really zoom in on this internal contest?
It's a fair question. But I think the answer lies in how this choice connects to their future potential.
Okay.
The kind of leader they pick now will shape their priorities, their whole strategy, really.
Yeah.
Will they focus on consolidating local gains or make a bigger push nationally?
I see.
And, how will they try to capitalize on the current political mood? It influences their policy offers, how they campaign, and ultimately whether they can actually become, a more disruptive force in Westminster. It's about understanding a key piece of the progressive puzzle, maybe.
That makes sense. So who are the names then? Who's actually putting themselves forward or likely to?
Okay, so declared so far, we have Simon Hedges. He's from Brighton, identifies as an eco-socialist. Seems popular, particularly with the younger base in the party.
Right, eco-socialist wing.
Exactly. Then there's Maya Kumari. Now, she hasn't formally declared yet, but there's strong rumor, strong expectation that she will stand.
Okay, one to watch.
Definitely. And then, as we mentioned, there's the Adrian Ramsey question. Could he end up running solo? Or will he face a challenge? That's still up in the air a bit.
And Siran Bear, she's quite a prominent figure, isn't she? Her deciding not to stand feels significant somehow.
It does, yes. Sian Berry's been a major voice for the Greens for a long time, often seen as someone who could maybe bridge some of the different strands within the party. Her not running this time, it could signal a shift. Perhaps it means the contest is likely to be more clearly defined along ideological lines this time, less of a bridging figure involved.
Okay, so let's talk about those ideological lines. Is there a clear sort of split or debate emerging?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It seems like an existing, maybe simmering ideological tension is really coming to the surface now.
How so?
Well, on one side, you've got this growing, more assertive eco-socialist wing. They're pushing for, much bolder policies on things like wealth redistribution, climate justice.
More radical systemic change.
Precisely. They see the environmental crisis as fundamentally tied to the economic system. So for them, the solutions have to be systemic, transformative, not just tinkering.
Okay. And the other side?
The other side, you could maybe call them the pragmatic environmentalists, perhaps. Their focus seems more geared towards achieving concrete environmental wins, often through local government action.
Right.
And there's a strong emphasis on electability, on building broader appeal to gain more influence within the current system, winning seats, working the levers of power as they exist.
So it really boils down to a fundamental choice about the party's soul, almost. Which path do they take?
That's a good way of putting it. Which vision gets the driving seat? That seems to be the core question in this election.
So let's zoom out a bit. Where does the Green Party actually stand right now in UK politics? We hear about local success, but nationally.
Yeah, the local government picture is, frankly, pretty strong for them. Over 700 councilors now, I think, and they actually run several councils outright or in coalition. That shows real grassroots organization.
That's not trivial.
Not at all. But as you say, that contrasts quite starkly with Westminster. Just one MP, Caroline Lucas. And crucially, she's standing down at the next election.
Which must pile the pressure on whoever wins this leadership contest. Huge pressure.
Immense pressure. Job number one for the new leader will be trying to hold on to Brighton Pavilion, which is now synonymous with the Greens.
Yeah, that's their flagship seat.
Exactly. But beyond just defending that, there's a clear expectation and ambition within the party to win more seats.
Wow.
You often hear places like Bristol West mentioned, Waveney Valley.
Potential targets.
Right, so this leadership race isn't just internal housekeeping. It's about proving they can actually grow nationally.
Yeah.
Can they break through in more places?
In the national polls, you mentioned,
Right.
they're holding steady.
Yeah, consistently hitting around 7%, sometimes a bit more. That's significant. It shows a decent chunk of the public likes what they offer.
What?
But the big challenge, the perennial challenge for them under First Past the Post, is converting that national support into actual MPs. It's tough. And there's this interesting dynamic, too, with Labor perhaps shifting slightly more to the center on, say, climate targets or immigration recently. Does that create an opening for the Greens on the left?
Potentially.
Potentially, yes. But the new leader has to navigate that really carefully. How do you attract those voters without scaring off more sort of centrist environmentalists? It's a tricky balance.
So when these candidates are making their pitch to members, what are the hot topics? What are the key issues really driving the debate internally?
Well, climate change is obviously central. It always is for the Greens. That's foundational.
Naturally.
But what's maybe more noticeable now is the growing weight given to interconnected issues. Things like the housing crisis, affordability.
Social justice angles.
Exactly. Social justice is much more prominent. Electoral reform is huge for them, too, pushing for proportional representation as core Green policy. They feel the current system silences them.
Right. PR would obviously help them translate votes into seats.
Hugely. And you even hear more talk now about things like universal basic income, UBI. So it's broadening out from purely environmental issues. There's a sense among the membership that you can't tackle the climate emergency without tackling inequality, housing, democratic reform. It's all linked.
And what about strategy? How to actually achieve change? Are they debating things like working with other parties?
Oh, yes. That's a really live debate.
Yep.
Tactical voting, potential coalitions. It's a bit of a fault line, actually.
How so?
Well, you've got some members and likely some leadership contenders arguing for more openness, being willing to do deals, maybe with Labor, maybe the Lib Dems, especially if there's a hung parliament.
Like pragmatic argument for influence.
Right. Get some of your policies enacted, have some real clout.
Yeah.
But then there's a strong counter-argument from others who really prioritize independence.
Stick to your principles.
Yeah. Maintain the distinctive Green voice. They worry that deals and coalitions inevitably mean compromising core values, diluting the message. So it's cooperation versus purity, in a way.
It sounds like a very engaged membership, thinking hard about these things.
They really are. Green Party members tend to be, passionate, generally well-informed. And I think there's definitely a growing pragmatism there, too. They don't just want to protest. They want results.
You want to see impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tangible impact. And that feeds right back into that tension, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How much ideological purity are you willing to trade for strategic flexibility and, hopefully, more influence?
So let's try and pull this all together. What's really at stake here? What does this leadership election truly mean? Not just for the Greens, but maybe for the rest of us looking at the UK political map.
I think what's fundamentally at stake is the party's credibility and its whole future growth path.
Right.
They seem to have this window of opportunity right now. You've got some voters maybe drifting from Labor. Climate anxiety is obviously very high, and they've proven they can win locally.
They have momentum.
They have momentum, yeah. A strong leader, someone with a clear vision and a smart strategy could potentially cement the Greens as, a really significant fourth party in UK politics, a genuine force.
And the flip side.
The flip side is, if they choose a leader who can't quite bridge those internal divides or whose strategy doesn't connect beyond the base, they could stagnate. They could miss this chance to really break through further.
So potentially quite high stakes for their trajectory.
Very high stakes, I'd say.
And what about public awareness? Is anyone outside of the party bubble really noticing this election right now?
Honestly, Probably not much, not yet. Internal party elections, let's face it, they're usually mainly for the party faithful and political anoraks. But that could change as we get closer to a general election, especially in those seats where the Green vote could genuinely tip the balance.
Ah, the marginals.
Exactly. In those key battlegrounds, who the Green leader is, what their strategy is, suddenly becomes much more relevant to the national picture. Their decisions could influence outcomes in quite a few places, so the focus will likely sharpen then.
Tom Ridley, this has been incredibly insightful. Thank you so much for breaking it all down for us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure. Glad to talk it through.
And that wraps up our discussion for today. We really hope you found this deep dive into the Green Party leadership election useful. For more analysis on UK politics as things develop, do keep following us here at Westferry Times.
And maybe, for you listening, it leaves a thought to mull over. How might the specific outcome here, who wins, what direction they take, how might that subtly change the political weather? How might it reshape the choices you feel you have come the next general election? Something to think about.
Indeed it is. Thanks again for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.